Protection magic in the wizarding world isn't just about blocking spells in a duel. It's about concealment, misdirection, containment, and making sure the danger never reaches you in the first place. Some of these enchantments are obvious shields. Others work quietly in the background. Like Protego. Protego is the standard defensive shield charm taught at Hogwarts and used in most on-screen duels. Not to be confused with Stratego, the classic board game that's basically chess for nerds. Actually, chess is chess for nerds, but you get what I mean. When cast, Protego produces an invisible magical barrier in front of the caster that deflects incoming spells, physical objects, and minor hexes. The shield does not absorb magic permanently. It redirects or rebounds it, which is why spells often ricochet or dissipate on contact. The strength of Protego depends heavily on the caster's focus, timing, and magical ability. A weakly cast Protego may stop a single stunning spell, while a stronger one can deflect sustained attacks. It is not an all-purpose solution. Powerful curses, multiple attackers, or dark magic of sufficient force can overwhelm it. Protego also does not protect the caster from every form of harm. Area effects, environmental destruction, or indirect damage can still get through, which explains why standing behind a shield in the middle of a collapsing room is not considered a long-term strategy. Protego also leaves the caster vulnerable to emotional damage, and will do nothing to deflect a well-timed, "I like your robes, they're so last year," or, "Ooh, that's a big wand, somebody's overcompensating." If only some wizard had invented an "I'm rubber your gluicus" spell. Salvio Hexia. Salvio Hexia is an area-based defensive charm specifically designed to neutralize hexes as they enter a protected space. Rather than blocking spells outright like a shield charm, it causes hostile hexes to unravel, dissipate, or lose coherence before they can take effect. This makes it particularly effective against sustained harassment magic, traps, or repeated low-level attacks. Salvio Hexia is most often layered with other protective charms, functioning as one part of a defensive system, rather than a standalone solution. It is subtle, silent, and completely invisible when active, which makes it ideal for long-term protection. However, it does not stop all forms of magic. Strong curses, physical force, or spells that are not technically classified as hexes can bypass it entirely, as well as close-up Vegas-style sleight of hand. Many a wizard has fallen to some nightclub hack with a name like the Amazing Curtis asking them to pick a card, any card. It is protection by categorization, which works very well right up until someone changes tactics. Finite Incantatem. Finite Incantatem is not a shield in the traditional sense, but it functions as defensive magic by forcibly ending active spells. When cast, it cancels magical effects currently operating on a target, an object, or an area. Kind of like a magic EMP. This includes jinxes, charms, enchantments, and lingering spell effects, provided the caster has enough magical strength to overpower the original spell. It does not reverse damage already done. It simply stops the magic from continuing. This distinction matters. If a curse has already broken something, Finite Incantatem will not fix it. What it does very well is shut down layered protections, traps, or ongoing hostile enchantments. In defensive situations, it is often used to clear space, remove magical obstacles, or neutralize threats that cannot be blocked directly. Think of it as the magical equivalent of pulling the plug, rather than trying to dodge the sparks. Speaking of pulling the plug, Dad, it was a hard choice, but the doctor said you were never coming out of that coma. You would have done the same in my shoes. Expelliarmus. Expelliarmus is a defensive disarming charm that removes an opponent's wand or weapon, instantly cutting off their ability to cast spells. While often underestimated because it does not cause direct harm, it is one of the most effective protection spells in practical combat. A wizard without a wand is, magically speaking, dramatically underqualified for the situation. The spell works by forcibly knocking the wand out of the opponent's grip, sometimes with enough force to throw them backward. Its effectiveness depends on timing and intent. A well-timed Expelliarmus can end a duel before it properly starts. However, it does not prevent an opponent from continuing to fight using physical force, non-wand magic, or sheer stubbornness. It is defensive magic built on the assumption that your enemy needs a wand, which is usually correct, but not universally comforting. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, if Voldemort had just hidden a 9mm in his robe for backup, the Second Wizarding War would have gone very, very differently. Impedimenta. Impedimenta is a hindering charm that slows down or temporarily immobilizes its target. So, alcohol? Rather than stopping an attack outright, it interferes with momentum, making it especially useful against charging opponents, fast-moving creatures, or incoming physical threats. When cast, it creates a magical resistance that causes the target to stagger, slow dramatically, or freeze in place for a short period. Against spells, it can reduce speed or force, buying the caster time to reposition or escape. The charm is commonly used in defensive formations because it disrupts coordination and breaks the rhythm of an attack. Its limitation is duration. Impedimenta is not permanent, and determined attackers will recover quickly. It is less about neutralizing danger and more about pressing pause long enough to do something smarter next. Stupefy. Stupefy is a stunning spell used defensively to incapacitate a target by rendering them unconscious, and, coincidentally, an early 2000s nu metal banger from Disturbed. You know, the oh-wah guys. Anyway, despite being classified as a spell rather than a charm, Stupefy's defensive value is obvious. An unconscious attacker is no longer attacking. The spell delivers a powerful burst of magical force that overwhelms the target's nervous system, causing immediate collapse if it connects cleanly. In group combat, multiple Stupefy spells can be combined to take down larger or magically resistant opponents. The spell itself doesn't kill, but I wouldn't recommend casting Stupefy on someone climbing a ladder or walking across a tightrope unless you've got a spell that can clean up biological waste ready to go. Its effectiveness depends on accuracy and power, and like most direct spells, it can be blocked or deflected by shield charms. It is protection through removal, which is efficient, decisive, and rarely subtle. Protego Maxima. Protego Maxima is an advanced, reinforced version of the standard shield charm, like switching from Netflix to Netflix without ads. It's designed to protect large areas rather than a single individual. Instead of forming a personal barrier, it projects a wide defensive field that can cover buildings, grounds, or multiple people at once. This spell requires significant magical power and is often cast collaboratively, with multiple witches or wizards reinforcing the same protection. During the Battle of Hogwarts, Protego Maxima is used alongside other defensive enchantments to strengthen the castle's outer defenses. The charm increases resistance to sustained magical assault, including heavy curses and siege-style attacks. It does not make the protected area invulnerable. It slows attackers down, drains their resources, and forces them to break through layers of magic instead of walking straight in. Think of it less as an impenetrable wall and more as magical reinforced concrete. Very effective, but still crackable if you hit it hard enough for long enough, or if you use a gun like a normal person. Avada Kedavra is cool and all, but if I were Voldemort, I would have just given all the Death Eaters AR-15s and been done with it. Expecto Patronum. Expecto Patronum is a highly advanced defensive spell, designed to protect against Dementors and Lethifolds, creatures that do not respond to conventional magic, logic, or threats. When cast successfully, it produces a Patronus, a manifestation of positive emotional energy shaped like an animal. This is not decorative. Dementors feed on despair and, like Oscar the Grouch, cannot tolerate concentrated happiness, which makes the Patronus function as both a shield and a repellent. The spell works by forcing the caster to focus on a powerful, genuinely positive memory, channeling that emotion into a tangible magical form. If the emotion is weak, forced, or unfocused, the spell fails outright. This is why many competent witches and wizards cannot cast it at all. Expecto Patronum offers no protection against standard spells, physical attacks, or curses. Its usefulness is extremely narrow, but within that narrow use case, it is one of the most effective defensive spells in the entire magical canon. Disillusionment Charm. The Disillusionment Charm provides protection by making a person or object blend into their surroundings, effectively rendering them nearly invisible. It does not cause true invisibility. Instead, it alters the appearance of the target to match the colors, textures, and lighting of whatever's behind them. The result is a shimmering, heat haze-like distortion that is difficult to notice unless you are actively looking for it. Wait, so J.K. Rowling ripped off the Predator franchise too? I guess I shouldn't be surprised. This charm is primarily defensive in nature, allowing the caster to avoid detection, observation, or targeting altogether. It is commonly used in stealth operations, surveillance, and protective escort scenarios. However, it does not mask sound, scent, or magical presence, and close inspection can still reveal something is there. The charm relies heavily on remaining still or moving carefully, because sudden movement defeats the illusion. It is protection by absence, effective until someone bumps into you. Muffliato. Muffliato is a privacy charm that protects conversations from being overheard by filling the ears of unintended listeners with an indistinct buzzing sound. Thanks to too many punk shows when I was younger, my ears are also filled with an indistinct buzzing sound. Rather than creating silence or a sound barrier, it selectively interferes with auditory perception. The spell allows normal conversation within the protected area while ensuring anyone outside it hears nothing intelligible. This makes it especially useful for planning, secrecy, and preventing sensitive information from being intercepted. Muffliato does not block visual observation, magical eavesdropping, or enchanted surveillance devices. It also does nothing to stop spells, curses, or physical intrusion. Its defensive value lies entirely in information control. Used correctly, it prevents knowledge from becoming a weapon. Used alone, it offers the comforting illusion of safety while someone watches you talk through a window. Notice Me Not charm. The Notice Me Not charm protects an area by manipulating attention rather than creating a physical or magical barrier. When active, it causes passerby to unconsciously ignore the protected location, convincing their minds that there is nothing of interest there. These are not the droids you're looking for, and all that. People do not see a blank space. They simply feel no reason to look more closely. This makes the charm extremely effective for hiding entrances, camps, or concealed structures in plain sight. The spell does not erase memory, block vision, or stop someone who is deliberately searching with magical means. It works best on casual observers, not trained wizards actively hunting a target. Its strength lies in its subtlety. There are no visible effects, no resistance to push through, and no alarm to trigger suspicion. It fails quietly, which is either a feature or a problem depending on how much you trust human distraction. Muggle Repelling Charm. The Muggle Repelling Charm specifically prevents non-magical people from entering or lingering in a protected area. When a Muggle approaches, they suddenly remember an urgent appointment, develop a strong desire to leave, or suddenly have to pee really, really badly. The charm does not cause fear or harm. It redirects intent. This spell is widely used to protect wizarding locations that exist within the Muggle world, including magical buildings, events, and concealed communities. It does not affect witches or wizards, and it does nothing to stop someone who is already inside the area before the charm is cast. It is also ineffective against Muggles who are being directly guided or forcibly brought into the space. The protection works because it exploits the mind, not the environment. Like most psychological defenses, it is very effective right up until someone stops listening to their instincts. Protego Totalum. Protego Totalum is a containment-style shield charm that encloses a defined space entirely, rather than protecting a directional barrier. Once cast, it creates a protective dome or boundary around an area, sealing everything inside from outside interference. Unlike Protego Maxima, which is often layered with other spells, Protego Totalum is designed to fully enclose and isolate a location. It is frequently used in combination with concealment and anti-detection charms to protect safe houses, camps, or strategic locations. The spell prevents spells, objects, and sometimes even magical tracking from crossing the boundary. However, it also means anybody inside is equally sealed in, which becomes inconvenient if you suddenly need to leave quickly or if someone blows up the bathroom after an all-night Taco Bell bender. As with most large-scale defensive magic, the effectiveness depends on how well the boundary is maintained and whether the caster refreshes or reinforces it over time. Protego Horribilis. Protego Horribilis is a highly specialized defensive charm designed to protect against extreme dark magic rather than everyday combat spells. It is rarely taught, rarely named aloud, and almost never demonstrated casually, which should already tell you it is not meant for schoolyard duels. The charm creates a powerful protective barrier specifically calibrated to resist curses that are designed to maim, torture, or kill. Unlike standard shield charms, which react to incoming magic, Protego Horribilis is proactive in nature. It reinforces an area against hostile intent, making it harder for dark spells to take hold at all. This is why it is typically used when guarding locations, people, or secrets that are under serious threat. It is also mentally demanding, requiring the caster to maintain absolute focus, making casting Protego Horribilis a lot like an intense goon session. In short, it is not stronger because it is louder or flashier, but because it is far more selective about what it refuses to let through. Confundus Charm. The Confundus Charm protects by impairing an opponent's ability to think clearly, causing confusion, poor judgment, and incorrect conclusions, otherwise known as alcohol. When used defensively, it disrupts plans, delays action, and causes attackers to misinterpret what they are seeing or doing. The charm does not control the target or erase their will. It introduces just enough cognitive noise to make reliable decision-making difficult. This makes it useful for misdirection, escape, or texting an ex at 2 a.m. for a booty call. However, the Confundus charm's effects are subtle and variable. Some targets become mildly disoriented, while others make spectacularly wrong choices with full confidence. Yeah, definitely sounds like alcohol. The charm does not stop physical force, spells already in motion, or determined attackers who realize they are compromised. It is defensive magic built on the hope that confusion will buy you time, which it usually does, unless your enemy enjoys chaos or has experience holding their liquor. Homunculus Charm. The Homunculus Charm is a tracking enchantment rather than a traditional defensive spell, but it functions as protection through awareness. It allows the caster to monitor the movement and identity of individuals within a defined area. Basically a stalking spell, its most famous application is on the Marauders map, which displays everyone inside Hogwarts in real time. The protective value comes from information. Knowing who is nearby, where they are going, and whether they are supposed to be there allows threats to be identified before they become dangerous. It's also a great way to make some blackmail money on the side. Hey, Harry, I saw you go into Hermione's room at 2 a.m., but aren't you dating Ginny? For a few galleons, I'll pretend I didn't see anything. The charm does not stop intruders, block spells, or trigger alarms on its own. It simply reveals presence. Its limitations are also clear. If you do nothing with the information, nothing is prevented. As defenses go, it is extremely powerful in competent hands and completely useless in inattentive ones. Fidelius Charm. The Fidelius Charm is one of the most powerful protective enchantments in the wizarding world because it hides information rather than objects. When cast, a secret, such as the location of a person or place, is magically concealed inside the soul of a chosen secret keeper. No one can discover that information unless the secret keeper willingly reveals it. This protection does not rely on strength, vigilance, or maintenance. As long as the secret remains unrevealed, it is completely inaccessible, even to highly skilled dark wizards. The spell's weakness is human, not magical. If the secret keeper betrays the secret, the protection collapses instantly. The charm also creates logistical problems, as protected individuals become dependent on a single person for access and coordination. It is absolute protection until it very suddenly isn't. So, it keeps information secret unless the person with the information reveals it? Isn't that literally just how regular secrets work? Anti-apparition jinx. The anti-apparition jinx prevents witches and wizards from apparating or disappearing within a designated area. This makes it a key defensive tool for securing buildings, prisons, and high-value locations. By removing instant magical travel, the charm forces intruders to enter and exit through physical means, which can then be monitored or defended. It also prevents defenders from fleeing easily, which is why it is typically used in controlled environments rather than emergency shelters. The jinx does not block portkeys, flying, or other methods of magical transportation unless combined with additional spells. Its effectiveness depends entirely on what other defenses are in place. On its own, it merely keeps people stuck where they already are, which is either reassuring or alarming, depending on the location. While I wouldn't mind being stuck someplace like Hawaii, it would suck being trapped somewhere vile and absolutely disgusting, like a Burger King. Taboo. The taboo is a detection-based protective enchantment that turns a specific spoken word or phrase into a magical trigger. When the tabooed word is said aloud, it breaks protective enchantments in the surrounding area and reveals the speaker's location to whoever casts the taboo. This makes it less of a shield and more of a magical tripwire. Its defensive purpose is deterrence and surveillance. People who know a word is tabooed are forced to self-censor, while those who do not reveal themselves instantly. The taboo does not stop spells, attacks, or physical movement. It simply announces that someone has said something they should not have. The protection comes from response speed. If no one is ready to act on the information, the taboo achieves nothing beyond being mildly judgmental magic with excellent hearing. Caterwauling Charm. The caterwauling charm is a straightforward intrusion alarm designed to detect unauthorized entry into a protected area. When triggered, it produces a loud, human-like wail that can be heard over long distances. Basically, when triggered, the caterwauling charm starts screaming bloody murder like a tween when you take away their fortnight. The charm does not identify who has entered, how many intruders are there, or what they intend to do. It only announces that someone crossed a boundary they were not supposed to cross. This makes it very effective at preventing stealth, but very poor at providing useful detail. The caterwauling charm is often layered with other defensive enchantments that activate once the alarm is raised. On its own, it is the magical equivalent of screaming very loudly and hoping someone responsible hears it. Bluebell flames. Bluebell flames are enchanted flames that burn blue and can be magically controlled. While often used for warmth or light, they also serve defensive purposes when employed as barriers or controlled hazards. Unlike normal fire, bluebell flames can be directed, sustained, and extinguished at will by the caster. This allows them to block passages, discourage pursuit, or create temporary containment zones. They do not spread uncontrollably and do not consume fuel, making them safer than they sound. However, they are still fire. They do not discriminate, they do not block spells, and they are ineffective against opponents who can counter or ignore heat-based threats, like anyone with access to water, basically. As protection goes, they are situational, practical, and only reassuring if everyone involved agrees not to panic around magical fire. Permanent Sticking Charm. The Permanent Sticking Charm is a utility enchantment that becomes defensive when used to secure protective objects in place. Like the wizard equivalent of superglue, it causes an item to adhere permanently to a surface, resisting removal by normal magical or physical means. In defensive contexts, this charm is used to fix protective artifacts, barriers, warning signs, or enchanted objects exactly where they are needed. It's also good for hanging pictures or mounting your new 82-inch Ultra 4K flat-screen TV. The spell does not make the object indestructible. It simply prevents relocation. If the object is destroyed, the charm ends with it. Its usefulness lies in preventing tampering rather than stopping attacks. It is protection by stubbornness, ensuring that whatever you place there stays there, regardless of how inconvenient that becomes later when you realize you put a TV larger than some small countries on the wrong wall. Counter Curse. A counter curse is not a single spell, but a category of defensive magic used to neutralize or reverse curses already in effect. The specific counter required depends entirely on the curse being undone, which means the caster must correctly identify the original magic before attempting to counter it. In practice, this makes counter cursing a test of knowledge rather than raw power. When successful, a counter curse can weaken, suppress, or completely remove harmful enchantments from people, objects, or locations. It does not always restore things to their original state, especially if the curse caused lasting damage. Counter curses are defensive by necessity rather than convenience. They're what you use after something has already gone wrong, not before, which explains why they're usually taught after the screaming stops. Of course, there's always a chance your opponent could counter curse your counter curse, but then you could just counter curse their counter curse. In return, however, they could counter curse your counter curse, but then, I'm sure you get the joke by now. Curse breaking magic. Curse breaking magic refers to specialized defensive techniques used to dismantle complex, layered, or ancient curses. Unlike counter curses, which deal with active effects, curse breaking focuses on long-term protections, traps, and magical safeguards placed on objects or locations. This type of magic is practiced professionally by curse breakers, most notably those working for Gringotts. The process often involves identifying multiple interacting enchantments, disabling them in the correct order, and surviving whatever unpleasant surprises were left behind. Curse breaking does not rely on a single spell and cannot be rushed. It is defensive magic in slow motion, designed to safely neutralize threats that were meant to last for decades. The protection comes from patience, preparation, and not touching anything until you are very sure you understand what will happen if you do. Which, if you think of it, is just good advice in any situation. Protego Diabolica. Protego Diabolica is an extremely rare and dangerous form of defensive magic that manifests as a ring of cursed black fire. It is designed to function as both protection and selective destruction. When cast, the flames form a controlled perimeter that incinerates anyone who attempts to cross it with hostile intent, while allowing allies to pass through unharmed. This makes it a defensive spell that actively judges threat rather than simply blocking it. The fire reacts to loyalty and aggression, not proximity. However, the spell is unstable and exceptionally difficult to control. If the caster loses focus or intent becomes unclear, the flames can turn indiscriminate very quickly. I definitely wouldn't recommend it if you have a lot of frenemies, unless you want every trip through the flames to be a coin toss. Heads. We're good enough friends today for you to pass. Tails. You never returned the Ghostbusters Blu-ray I let you borrow. Burn in hell. Protego Diabolica is not used casually, not taught formally, and not recommended for anyone who enjoys buildings remaining intact. Its protection is absolute, only as long as the caster is. Shielding potions. Shielding potions provide temporary magical resistance rather than a physical barrier. When consumed, they strengthen the drinker's ability to withstand spells, curses, and magical force for a limited time. The potion does not block magic outright. Instead, it dampens impact, reduces effectiveness, and increases the threshold required for spells to cause harm. This makes it useful in prolonged engagements, or situations where casting defensive spells continuously is impractical. The effects vary depending on the potion's strength and preparation quality. Poorly brewed shielding potions offer minimal protection and a false sense of confidence, which is worse than no protection at all. They also do nothing to prevent environmental damage, psychological effects, or particularly powerful dark magic. Shielding potions are defensive magic for people who plan ahead, or at least drink first and worry later. Lumos Solum. Lumos Solum is a specialized defensive charm that produces a burst of concentrated sunlight. Its primary use is protection against magical plants and creatures that thrive in darkness, most notably Devil's Snare. The spell does not create continuous light. It generates an intense flash that mimics direct sunlight, forcing light-sensitive threats to retreat or become dormant. It's particularly effective against albinos, mole people, vampires, and anyone else for whom the sun is an enemy. Lumos Solum is highly situational, but extremely effective in the right context. While it offers no protection against spells, curses, or physical attackers, it is a good way to get a quick tan before hitting the beach. It is not a general-purpose defensive charm and cannot be adapted easily outside its intended use. When it works immediately. When it does not, you are standing in the dark, having just announced your location with a very bright flash. Protection spells can delay danger, redirect it, or keep it at bay, but none of them matter if the force pushing against them is powerful enough. And when it comes to breaking through wards, shields, and centuries-old enchantments, no group in the wizarding world has done it more consistently than Voldemort's inner circle. That's where things get far less defensive. Click here for every powerful Death Eater explained.